Welcome to Discussions in the Afterlife. I'm Jim.
And I'm Colleen.
Today we have a ghost story for you, a current, still going on ghost story happening right here in this house. I moved here in with my sister last fall, and I didn't notice it for the few weeks I was here in the fall before I left for Panama. But since I've been back here a month, and there's something crazy going on down the end of the hallway from my bedroom on the second floor. And it's I'm going to tell you about that just a little bit. At the top of the steps of the second floor, Greg, Colleen's husband, has an office. He has a desk there and some storage. And then right around the corner, right down the hall, is my bedroom. In the late afternoon, and only in the late afternoon, when I get home from work, I get home from work before Colleen and Greg, there is a ruckus going on around that space where Greg's desk is. That's the only way I can describe it. All kinds of movement and shuffling. With my door closed, it sounds like Greg is actually doing somersaults at his desk. That's really the long and short of it. So I mentioned this to Colleen, like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks.
And you said that you had never heard this.
No, to me, it was a brand new thought. You know, when I'm in the house is quiet. You know, I'm up and down the steps all day long and out in my bedroom.
Right. Yeah, and I noticed that when Colleen and or Greg are in the house, it doesn't happen. It only happens when they are gone. Me being in the house doesn't seem to make any difference to them. And it only happens in the afternoon. So we're talking about this, we're getting curious about this. At one point, myself and the dog are in the house together. The dog follows me upstairs and gets to the top of the steps and stares at a stuffed chair in the corner of that little office.
Yeah, that was Phil's chair. It's a glider, you know.
Yeah. And the dog, almost 2 minutes. I mean, it was like forever that a young dog with no attention span whatsoever, staring at that chair. There was something going on with the chair. And Colleen wanted to hear this.
I did. I thought, you know, how am I missing all of this? This is my house. I've lived here 19 years. I'm not hearing anything. Like, is Jim just going crazy or, you know?
Right. So of course, we use a lot of recorders when we do our studies, when we talk to the invisible people. But in this instance, we only used one recorder. Last week in the afternoon. It was so noisy out there in that space around that desk. I look out the window, I notice that Colleen and the dog are out in the garden. Perfect time for the recorder. So I just flip on the recorder, just quietly walk out of my room, put the recorder on the banister, and go back and sit down. Close my door and sit down because that works best for the noise. And it ran for 9 minutes. It was chocked full of people, of noises and people talking. So I'm gonna kind of let Colleen fill you in on what happened with that recorder.
Right, so I sat down to listen to the 9 minutes, and I'm just picking out part of what we heard because there's a lot of nonsense in between that is very hard to hear or just doesn't make any sense. But the first thing I heard, which was like straight away after Jim shut his door, was Colleen's outside. Some lady said that. And then a man says, carry on. And then a few more people must have been looking around for me. And this woman says, we cannot find her. And another lady says, Colleen's down there, which I was down there in the garden. And then in between all of this are knocks and bangs and all kinds of thumping and bumping noises. And after a really big thump, like on wood, this man says, Jesus, I hit my head on something. So I don't know, he's crawling around under Greg's desk. But then a few minutes later, after a lot of chatter, a man says, Jim, I hear the doggy. So, but the dog was outside with me, so he couldn't have been hearing my dog.
But we don't even know which Jim. It could be our grandfather, could be our father.
And they all had dogs.
Yes.
So did they have their dog with them? Maybe.
Perhaps.
So just about a minute before Jim came out of his room to shut the recorder off, a very distinct coming down the steps, thump, 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 thump.
The attic steps.
Right, because they're wooden. They're not
right,
carpeted.
and the door for the attic is right adjacent to Greg's desk.
Yes. So it's kind of tucked around the corner, but yeah, the door's right there. It makes sense. And some man says, down the basement. And another man says, hey, you're pushing me in. And then you hear a really big bang, as if like everybody's getting shoved in a closet and they shut the door on him. I don't know. And then a man says, one of these knew it, that we can see. And then another man says, everybody can see you. And he sounded a little agitated, like, oh, stop.
That is an issue in the afterlife. These invisible people that hang out in our homes, your home and my home, our home, they're full of people. But invisible people have to play by certain rules. And one of the rules is they can't be seen by us humans. That's against the rules.
Right. They seem to get kind of scolded or, that's a big no-no. And
Right.
They never get a very good reaction from those other invisible people around them.
Right. And what happened one afternoon last week was I heard all the thumping and the banging and the carrying on near Greg's desk. So I opened my door and it paused for a moment until I sat back down at my desk in my bedroom. And, I'm just very quietly reading the news online. But I can't see out the door to worry them. So the noise started again. All the carry on just started right up again until I slid my chair back so I had a clear view of Greg's desk area. Done. That shuts them off. They're scared of being seen. So at the end of the day, we're super curious about this. So we do a study. That's where we put recorders all around the house, and Colleen asks a bunch of questions, pauses in between so we can hear their responses, and we ask them about what's going on in the house.
Right. And even before I asked a question, I always give the date and time for us to mark so we know when this happened. And as I stated what time it was, upstairs, a man says, Phil is here. And Phil's my father-in-law who died quite a few years back. And then I sat down not knowing anybody saying anything, and I asked, what are those people doing around Greg's desk? And a man says, I don't know. Another man says, half are blind. And a lady says, they are special.
Yeah, and the way she said they are special, she was being sarcastic. Mm-hmm. Right. And considering that half of them are blind, I mean, that might be why all the they're banging into everything.
True.
Because they're just bumbling around that space. But who was Opie, Colleen asked, who was Opie looking at sitting in the chair? That dog story, when the dog was staring. And in the living room, a man says, it is Phil. Again, the father-in-law. And at the glass doors, a young woman it sounds like, that's Phil. And at the steps, a man informs us he can see everything, which indicates he's a rather big shot in the afterlife. The higher level people can see more. So Phil's up there. And then Colleen asks, what's happening in the attic? In the kitchen, a man says, I don't go up there. And on the landing, a man says, God damn, Phil on the run. Next to the desk, uh, they're cutting the cap on Phil's crew.
Well, Phil was always in construction. You know, he had his own business, he worked for other people, so.
So he's got people around him and they're cutting the cap, meaning there's going to be more people. You repeated the question, what's happening in the attic? And in the kitchen, the man says, they're following him up there. So at the end of the day, it sounds like your father-in-law has moved from next door because they own the farm that this property used to be a part of. And he has moved over from the house next door to this house, hiding in this attic. It sounds like a bunch of his people have come with him. And maybe it gets hot in the afternoon, so they come down out of the attic and like...
Oh, that's true. Our attic gets hot.
Yeah.
It really does.
And so maybe this doesn't happen in the winter. Maybe it only happens the last few weeks because it's getting warm.
Right. Maybe we need to do more experiments when
Yes.
the weather changes.
But
And I almost see Phil as going between the two properties because this was part of his property.
right.
And the horses were here and we built a house where the horses used to be. So, you know, for Phil to kind of travel between the houses,
It's nothing weird.
not weird. It wouldn't be weird at all.
Right.
So,
Well, there you have it. A ghost story, an ongoing ghost story, and we'll give you an update here and there. Please subscribe. Super important. Like us, give us a thumbs up, share, comment, all the above. Thanks for your help. We will see you next week. Thanks.
thank you.
Bye.